Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to today's episode of Modesty's Money Masterclass. This is episode number 36 of our Modesty's Money Masterclass, episode number 36. And welcome to today's episode. And I hope you've all had a very good weekend. Welcome to Monday. It's another Monday, another day to talk about money, another day to talk about our financial lives and our financial discipline and how to improve our relationship with money, which is what this whole session is all about, which is what this whole program is all about. Improving your relationship with money, helping you understand what money is all about and how we can put it to optimum use. So I hope the series that we've been doing have been very helpful to you. And if you want to see more of what we have done in the past episodes and series, please go onto YouTube and just search my name, Ike Naomi Zudike, on YouTube, and everything we've done in the past will just pop up. But then we're not talking about the past today, we are talking about today, presently. So what are we going to be talking about today? We're going to be continuing on the series. In fact, this is the finale, the grand finale of the series that we've been on for the past 4 weeks, where we've been talking about how to understand and improve your credit score. Okay, so today we're going to be rounding it up, and I hope the previous sessions that we've done on this has been useful to you, and that you've been able to pick up one or two things that will help improve your credit score and will help you understand your credit score better. All right, so as you can see, I am excited today, and you know why I'm happy? You know why I'm excited? Look, I've had a haircut. I have had a haircut. You do not understand how what this means to me and how relieved I am that finally I've been able to get that bush off my head, and now I feel so free. The freshness of the breeze and the air. Come on, man. You cannot buy that. Money cannot buy that. So I look in the mirror now, I look more like myself. I can recognize myself now when I look in the mirror than I used to a couple of weeks ago. It's one of the things I hated about the lockdown, really. Not having, things, little things like you take them for granted, not having a haircut. Until the lockdown happened, I understood how important it was. I almost lost my identity because I can't even recognize myself. But hey, we're here. Let's talk about the credit score, how to understand and improve it. Okay. So enough about my hair and my head. It's not about the hair, it's about what is inside the head. Okay. So let me concentrate more on that. Last week we were talking about things that impacted on your credit score negatively, like adverse effects. We talked about CCJs, we talked about bankruptcies, and today we're going to be talking about something else that affects your credit score negative, which is called an IVA, which is recorded against your credit score. What an IVA is an individual voluntary arrangement. And then there is also another one called DRO, Debt Relief Order. So we're going to be talking about how these things impact on your credit score. But first of all, let's understand what these things mean. For those of you who have been part of our mortgage program, which we do every one Wednesday, you would have heard me talk about IV and DRO. And what I'll be talking about IV and DRO here will not be different from what I talked about in the mortgage masterclass a couple of weeks ago. So individual voluntary arrangements (IVA) is simply we talked about bankruptcy. So this is just a level below bankruptcy. Bankruptcy is the peak of credit impairment. The IVA is just a level below bankruptcy. Okay, so IVA is an individual voluntary arrangement, and that's basically what it is. As the name implies, it's an individual voluntary arrangement, which is a payment arrangement which you embark upon, depending on your arrangement or agreement with the lenders. And once you agree with the lender to pay a certain amount of money every month to pay off the debt that you owe them, right? That arrangement, you stick to it, and it lasts for a period of, say, 5 years. So after 5 years, whatever you've agreed to pay them after 5 years, whether or not you paid off everything, that is where it ends. That agreement lasts for 5 years, and after 5 years, that's it. That debt is settled. It's cancelled. It's considered satisfied. All right. So now, if you enter into an IVA, it's gonna be reported or recorded on your credit report that you've entered into an individual voluntary arrangement, and it's gonna affect your credit report. It's going to give you it's gonna make your credit rating poorer, right? Because it simply means that you entered into that arrangement because you were unable to meet your financial obligations in the first place, which was why you entered into that voluntary arrangement with the creditor. So if you were owing this company, say £5,000 in loans or credit cards or any other kind of debt, and then you used to pay them, say £200 every month towards that, and then you run into financial difficulty and you come into an arrangement with them and say, look, I can't afford to pay you £200 every month anymore because I simply cannot afford it. Now I can afford to pay you £100 or even £50, depending on what your financial capacity can carry. And then that arrangement is now finalized between you and the creditor, and the term is agreed over which you're going to pay that money. So if you're paying them £100 every month, it means in a year you're paying the £1,200 pounds, and in 5 years you're paying the £6,000. It then means that the interest is written off, because that £5,000 plus interest could have been anything like £8,000 or thereabout within however many years you are going to pay them off. So they're going to freeze the interest and they just pay the capital. Yeah, and then you pay them that whatever you can. It becomes the arrangement over a period of 5 years. After that 5 years, it's all wiped off and it's all considered satisfied. It's still going to be showing on your credit report though, but it's going to be showing that it's been satisfied. It's not going to disappear. So when lenders make a search, unless that record has been more than 6 years old, then it's going to disappear. So when lenders make a search, they will still see that you've been in an IVA. Either you're still in that IVA or you have come out of the IVA by means of satisfying it. Okay, so it doesn't mean that you cannot get credit. It simply means that the terms that will be offered you will not be the same terms that will be offered people who have clean credits. So you are most likely going to pay more in interest rates on credits and things that you are getting, like your mortgages and your credit card and your loans. So lenders are going to be more cautious. Lenders are going to be more conservative in terms of offering you things. Like credit cards, they will not offer you the same credit limit that they will offer somebody on a clean credit, because they consider you a high risk. And like I've always said, the risk that you pose to lenders determine the interest or the interest rate or the deal that they are offering you. Okay, so that is how IVA works. Then when it's registered against you on your credit report, it shows on your credit report that you've been in an IVA, and that it shows when you enter into that IVA and how long it's going to last, how much it is for, and every detail concerning the address where you were at when you entered into that IVA. All those reports and all those records will be on your credit report. Now, the other thing that can also affect your credit report negatively is a DRO. It's called a debt relief order. Now, a debt relief order is an order that is granted to an individual who is owing a debt of, say, less than £20,000. So that debt relief order is granted to you, and if you're owing debt of less than £20,000 and you have limited assets, which means the ability to pay those debts are not there. The assets to even sell off to pay those debts are not there. But then you know what creditors are like, especially in this country, in the UK. They will never let you be. They will never let you sleep. They'll keep bombarding you with letters and threatening you with all legal actions and all that. So what debt relief order does is that it prevents the creditors from seeking repayment from you for a period of 12 months. They will not do it without the approval of the court. The court will have to approve before they go ahead to seek repayment from you while the debt relief order is in place. Now, this order lasts for a period of 12 months. Okay, usually that's for a period of 12 months. So these orders, once they are issued or once they are granted, they are usually recorded on your credit profile, and it will make it difficult, if not impossible, for you to be able to get credits, especially if you're looking to get a mortgage. So it becomes a lot more difficult. But, what you're seeking is just a breathing space, at least for the next 12 months. Now, even after that order is lifted and the debts are cancelled, they still remain on your credit profile for at least 6 years, and lenders can see them, and lenders can make decisions based on that information that they have. So an IVA or a DRO doesn't legally prevent you from taking, credits like mortgages. But what lenders do is that they will be unable, some of them will be very unwilling to consider that application while the IVA or DRO is still on your record and while the arrangement is still in place. I have dealt with, clients that want a mortgage and they are still in an IVA. And I was able to find a lender who was happy to lend them, even while they are still in IVA, provided they satisfactorily conducted themselves while they're in that IVA for at least a period of 12 months. Okay? And even though they are still in that IVA, they are happy to lend to them, but the conditions are stricter and the interest rates are higher. So they will lend them on a low loan to value. So even if they are first time buyers, they can only lend them say 75%, loan to value. That is the value, 75% of the value of the property they want to buy, meaning that they have to come up with 25% deposit. Okay, and then also providing that there aren't other debts in the background that is stopping them from, pushing that through. So it doesn't legally prevent you from accessing credit or accessing loans or mortgages. But what it does is that it limits the options that you have, because these provisions can only be made by specialist lenders. And those specialist lenders, there are not too many of them who are very liberal with IVAs or DROs. They will always, place strict criteria around providing credit for people like that, because you are on the high risk category. So if you're in the high risk category, the interest rate will reflect that. But what it does is that it gives you the opportunity to rebuild your credits. If you're able to get credit in that while you're still in that situation, and you get that credit and you are servicing that credit and that loan or that mortgage continuously without fail, for that period of time that credit lasts, it's boosting your credit rating. It means that you're showing yourself more financially responsible, even though it's coming at a cost. Okay, so just like bankruptcy, lenders would like the arrangements to have lenders would like the arrangement to have ended. Obviously, they would have loved the situation where the arrangement would have ended. You're no longer in the IVA, or the DRO order is no longer in place. Then they can also give you terms within which that will happen. Meaning they will say, we would like this arrangement to have ended like 2-3 years ago before we can consider. And then some will say, whether it's ended now or it's not ended, we are happy to deal with you. So different lenders with different criteria around these things. So if you are in doubt, speak to a financial advisor, speak to a mortgage broker, if it's about a mortgage, and see if there are chances of you obtaining credit around, while still in that situation, that position. Okay, so with IVAs and DROs out of the way, now let us talk about another thing, another part of your credit report, which is connections. Now, in your credit report, there is a section devoted to connections. Connections is basically that part of your credit report which reveals all the addresses and all the financial associations you've had in the past, all the addresses you've been linked to, all the addresses you've been connected to, and everyone and anyone with whom you've been in any kind of financial association. Okay, that part of your credit report, which is under connections, reveals all that. Now, what sort of information, is contained in that section? Now, let's talk about linked addresses. Yeah, so that part of your credit report talks about addresses in the UK that you've lived in for the past 6 years. Now, there is something unique about this part. Yeah, credit reference agencies can get this information from lenders and credit providers and even utility companies or even debt management companies or anybody who you've had financial dealings with, in the UK. They can get linked addresses from them. But those linked addresses may not actually reflect the information that is on your personal details on the same credit report. So it then tells you whose responsibility it is to update your personal details, because you cannot just assume that because these addresses are in the linked addresses section, it means that your address details are up to date. No, it is your responsibility to update your address details on your personal information section. Every address you've lived at or been linked within the past 6 years, it's your responsibility to update them on your credit report. Do not rely on the linked addresses section, because those are information that the lenders will, get from the credit reference agencies will get from lenders and credit providers and anybody you've had financial dealings with. But then, if you do not personally update that record on your personal information section, it will affect your credit report, because that means that the credit reference agencies, the lenders, will not see that information when they come to search or make a credit search on you. They will only see the information that you provided to the lender up to the point where you say, this is where I have lived. So if it doesn't cover the last 6 years, it then means that something is missing and the lenders cannot see it. So it will definitely affect your credit report. Now, if you haven't lived in the UK for up to 6 years, it's not a problem. As long as your personal details are up to date, which includes your address details. If you've lived here for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, just make sure that the details are up to date. That is what matters. And then your electoral roll, the electoral roll register, that your name is on the electoral roll on the electoral register, and the current address which you are using as your correspondence address. And make sure it is the same address that all your credit commitments are linked to. So if you know the addresses you have used to obtain credit cards and open bank accounts and do all your financial dealings, make sure you are registered on the electoral roll and that address, because it then means that your identity aligns with the information that is on the credit reference agency's report. Okay, so when your addresses are not comprehensive enough, it means the lenders do not know much about you. It puts a question mark on your identity. Okay, so but when your addresses are comprehensive enough, it simply means that yes, we know everything about this guy and this lady, their movements from when they lived at this address to when they moved to this address, and it corresponds with the details that we hold. And trust me, lenders have far more access to your credit report and your personal details than you can ever imagine. The access that they have to the data about you goes beyond your credit report. There are things on your credit report that you don't even know, or that are not even on your credit report, but the lenders know about it. And they make decisions based on that data that they hold, not necessarily what is on your credit report. Or because if your credit report is incomplete, if the data there is incomplete, the lenders are going to use and rely on their own data, which they already have. I mean, I had a case, a mortgage case, where I was trying to remortgage a property for a client, who had a bridging loan that he wanted to remortgage into a conventional loan. And then each time we prepare this client's property portfolio report and send it to the lender, they'll look at it and they throw it back at us and say, no, this is not correct. This is incomplete. This does not match the details on the client's profile, credit profile. And I said to this client, can you take a look at your credit profile and please, just make sure you fill in this information according to what's on your credit profile. He said, okay. He went and brought his credit profile. He even gave me a copy of it. We looked at it and everything seemed okay. We corrected a few bits there and sent it in again to the lenders. And they threw it back at us again and said, no, this is still not correct. It still doesn't tally with what we have, the data we have on his credit profile. And we were like, what is going on? And I said to this client, okay, pick up the phone, call every single lender that you have taken mortgage, that's on your mortgage documents. Call them and ask them for up-to-date information on your mortgages. All right, your current mortgage balance, your outstanding, your current mortgage balance, how when that mortgage is going to end, what your monthly repayment is, and every detail about that. And then as you get that information over the phone, write it down, and with the information you get from the lenders over the phone, fill in this report and send back to me. And he did exactly what I asked him to do, and he sent it back to me, and we then sent it in, and the lender said, yes, we're happy with this. You see, it's not just about what's on your credit report. These lenders have access to far more data about you than you think is on your credit report. So you can really not hide a lot from them. The best thing you can do for yourself is do yourself a favor and update your credit profile with as much information as possible. Do not think you're playing on the lenders by keeping any information away from them on your credit profile because they have access to it. You are doing yourself more harm than good. Okay, so apart from the linked addresses, the other information that appear under connections are financial connections and financial associations. Now, financial connections and financial associations are simply, this is where the record of people that you've had financial associations with are kept. In this section of your credit report, it simply reveals people that you have had financial associations with. Now, what is financial association? These are people that you have had, you have made joint applications with, either via joint accounts or bought properties with, together, as co-applicants on a mortgage or co-applicants on maybe a hire purchase finance. So people that you've had financial dealings in conjunction with them, they are called financial associations. So when you get your credit report and you look under the financial associations, if you have had a joint account, say with a spouse or with a friend or with a partner or with anyone at all, it will appear under financial associations. If you have bought a property with a spouse, with a partner, or with a friend, or with anybody, it will appear under financial associations. Okay, so that is what financial associations, and it's an important part of your credit profile in the sense that when you are considered to be financially associated with someone, right, it means there's some kind of relationship, financial relationship that you guys are into. It's almost like you're financially married to this person because what you do or what each other does affects the other person. Now, ordinarily, financial association does not affect your credit profile. Because you're in financial association with anybody doesn't mean you are going to have a poor credit or anything. No, it does not. But where it does affect is what each of you does individually. So if you're in a financial association with someone and the person goes out and does fraud, and that fraud is recorded against the person's name, because you're in financial association with that person, if you're making a credit application individually, lenders will look at it and they can make decisions based on that. It could potentially affect your ability to get credits. All right. So it doesn't affect your credit report because you're in a financial association, but it does affect your ability to get credit if individually anything goes wrong with any one of you. So it means your financial conduct, your individual conduct, not just even financially, individually, morally. If you get into fraud, if you get into trouble, if you get into any kind of mess that will result to criminal records or county court judgments being recorded against you, it's going to affect the other person. Okay. Now, business partners who have joint accounts for their businesses, if it's not a limited liability partnership, but you're in a business partnership with someone and you both of you have a joint account for that joint partnership, it's a financial association because the business is not separated from the individuals. It is considered a personal liability. So if you both enter into a financial association by opening a joint account for the purpose of that business partnership, it's a financial association. So the both of you will now be interlinked financially. What one person does affects the other person. So the conduct of one person it has an impact. It has an effect on the other person. So if you enter into a financial association with someone who has got a poor credit, it's almost certain that it's going to drag your own credit down, right? If the person had a poor credit when you enter into a financial association with a person, because the person had the poor credit, it's going to affect your own your ability to access credits. Say, for example, you want to buy a property, um, a partner, you and your partner want to buy a property, or you and your partner want to buy a car, and the both of you decides to make a joint application on that, and one partner has a poor credit, the the lending products or the loan products, the credit products that will be available to you will not be based on your own excellent credit. It will be based on the poor credit of that person. So you both are going to have limited options in terms of credit, the kind of product that's available to you, and the kind of lender that's willing to deal with you because of that person's profit. It's certainly going, almost certainly going to drag your own credit down. So before you enter into a financial association with someone, it is very important that you look at the person's credit report. Okay? If possible, the both of you should be monitoring each other's credit reports regularly, just to make sure that things are not going out of place, just to make sure that things are, in the rightful place, just to make sure that you are still on the same wavelength and on the same page. And that's why it's very important that before you go into financial assistance with somebody, you make sure of who that person is, that you know what their conduct are like. That somebody is proposing to you to go into partnership with you and the both of you open a joint account and all that. If you haven't done your due diligence, it could be dangerous. It could be dangerous going into that partnership. But it is different from being a shareholder in a company. Okay? Because when if it's a limited company and you want to be a shareholder in that limited company, when that limited company wants to take a credit, the credit search that is done is carried out on the directors of that company, not necessarily on the shareholders, unless you share the role as a director and a shareholder. Okay, they carry out a credit search on directors and then make a decision based on that. But then that you are co-director in a business does not mean that that person's poor credit rating will affect you, because the business is a separate entity from the individuals. If it's a limited liability company. Okay, so that does not affect. But when you are a co-director with someone in a limited company and the company wants to take out a credit, the lender will most likely run a credit check on both of you or all of you as directors of that company. And if one of you has a dodgy credit record or rating, it might affect the approval of that credit because of one person's credit rating which is poor. Okay, so it is not out of place for you to have access to the other person's credit report if that is what it takes for you to maintain your own credit report. You would, I mean, if the person has nothing to hide, there is no reason they shouldn't give you access to their credit report. If somebody wants to enter into a financial association with you and they are not happy for you to access their credit report, there is something they are hiding. So it makes that relationship a very suspicious one, because everybody has to look after themselves in that relationship, and you should be conscious of what you do, because what you do affects the other person. It's not a time to be selfish. You can't just go about and start applying for credit randomly and then crashing your credit report when you are in a financial association with someone. You can't just, veer off and start messing yourself up financially when you're in a financial relationship with someone. Okay? It is a time for you to consider the impact of your actions on the people that you have a financial association with. Okay? Now, to get rid of any financial association, what do you have to do? You simply have to close any account that is in joint names. If there is need for you to get rid of any financial association with anybody, close. If it's a joint bank account, close the account. Once the account is closed, that financial association is destroyed. If it's a joint credit card account, close it. If it's a joint hire purchase account, basically you have to pay off whatever you're owing before that account can be considered closed. So you might consider speaking to the other person and saying, can we find a way to pay off what we are jointly owing, and then we can close this account and go our separate ways. If you reach an agreement to do that, that's fantastic. You do it. But if the person is not in a position to make that payment or to pay it off, and you are not in a position to pay that off and close that account, unfortunately, you are stuck with that situation until you reach an agreement or a stage where that debt can be paid off and that account can be closed. The same thing applies to mortgages. If you have a joint mortgage with anyone, and sadly something happens and you need to get rid of that financial association with that person, it's called transfer of equity. You find a way to transfer the equity that the person has into your own name, and in doing that you find a way of paying that person off, and the person gets out of your life, and then the mortgage becomes solely your responsibility, and you become the sole applicant on that mortgage, or the sole owner of that mortgage and that property, subject to your own income being able to carry the totality of the outstanding mortgage. Because if your income cannot carry the whole outstanding mortgage, the lender will not allow that transfer of equity to happen unless you bring in some other party who will be joining you in that mortgage, and then the both of you can now pay the other person off, and the both of you become the new co or joint owners on that mortgage or that property. So that's how to get rid of that financial association. But if the worst comes to worst and there is no way the both of you can raise money to sort that out, it comes to the point where the property has to be sold. And if the property has to be sold, you also have to consider whether there is an early repayment charge to be made on that mortgage. Okay? Because if there is an early repayment charge to be made on that mortgage, it becomes more expensive even. So the early repayment charge is a significant amount that you guys have to pay for you to get out of that fixed mortgage. Sometimes if it's a fixed mortgage, you have to pay early repayment charges for you to get out of that fixed mortgage. Okay, if that is the case, then it becomes a problem, right? If that is the case, it becomes a problem because you guys cannot afford to pay that early repayment charge. You either have to wait for that fixed period to end and then you sell the house at that time, or you find a way to raise money and pay the other person off. If you cannot afford to pay that person off, somebody else has to come into the mortgage. If nobody can afford to come into the mortgage, well, it's really unfortunate that you are stuck with that person until you're able to find a solution. Hi, thanks, Richie. Good morning. Thank you, brother. So if it's a young marriage, it becomes even more difficult because if it's a young marriage, you just took out this mortgage and then all of a sudden something breaks down and you need to get out of this financial association. You know, the same procedure, the same process, the same protocol. If you cannot afford to pay this person off, you can actually remortgage, yeah, to pay someone off the mortgage. You can remortgage the property if the both of you agrees on that, subject to mutual agreement. You can remortgage on that property to transfer the equity. Because okay, if we remortgage this property, I will pay you this much. If you agree on the payoff, you remortgage the property, raise money out of that property, out of the property, and pay the other party off. And then make sure that as you are raising that money, transferring that equity, that the extra cash you have raised plus the outstanding mortgage, yeah, put together, that your income can carry that. Of course, the lenders are going to run affordability checks and make sure that everything adds up. If it adds up, then that can happen. So, my advice is be very careful and be very conscious of who you enter into financial association with. It could have a serious impact on your credit report and you could find your fingers burnt if you have entered into the wrong financial association. It could, delay the prospect of you having a decent credit record and having access to decent credit. All right, guys. Thank you so very much for being part of today and for listening and for watching. And like we always say, please give us your feedback. Let us know what you think about what you've heard, what you've watched, what you've listened to, or any platform you're listening to. Just give us feedback on that. And if you want to have access to all the backlogs and sorry, all the catalog of content that we release, go to my YouTube page, search Ikenna Music on YouTube, and have a feel. Feel your boots, feel your brain, feel yourself, feel your mind with everything on there. And I'm gonna see you guys again on Wednesday when we come live again to talk about mortgages in our mortgage masterclass. And then again on Monday, I'm gonna see you where we talk about money masterclass. Till then, stay safe, stay strong, and stay blessed. Take care and goodbye.